in Bledisloe.
Half past 7, I think.
Half past 7 in the morning. We'll be watching the C40 awards ceremony, and we are keeping everything crossed that Councillor Filipaina and our wonderful Parul will be going up there to get a Best in the World Waste Management Award. So well done, team.
Best frock on.
Thank you. Right, going, madam. Now, we're just,
So next time,
so we haven't got
we go to the Sport and Recreation
Sport and Rec.
grant.
Okay. What are we doing now? Grant allocation, or no, or strategic plan?
I would have thought for an award like that, they'd just beam them.
Item 13.
Right, so we're going to go to item 13 next, everybody. I'm happy to move, Madam Chair.
Elf.
What was that, 13?
It'd be voluminous and we could send.
Councillor Simpson will move item 13. Is there a seconder for that?
Carbon.
I'm happy to second Councillor Simpson, and I'll just ask our staff.
Might say something.
Just by the
Oh, Daniel.
foodie.
Have we sorted these active people out, though? No,
Nice.
Daniel's doing
Any
it.
comments on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just get Dave Stewart, our Manager of Sport and Recreation, to give a very brief overview of this funding.
Lovely, thank you, Dave.
Better wait for your speech.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Which I want.
Give it a go.
Auckland Council Sport and Recreation Regional Sport Investment supports the delivery of the Auckland Sport and Recreation Strategic Action Plan. This is a sector plan to support Aucklanders to be more active more often. In 2015-16, the Strategic Action Plan Senior Leaders Group identified 4 priority areas for years 1 to 3 of the implementation of the plan. This is the 3rd year of these priorities. The priorities are organisational capability of the sector, skilled and growing volunteer base, a fit-for-purpose network of facilities, and facility partnerships. To drive delivery of these priorities, Auckland Council has provided a strategic partnership grant to Active, Auckland Sport and Recreation, of $552,000 in the previous 2 years. This is an approach which aligns with and is supported by Sport New Zealand and leverages central government investment. Now into its 3rd year, the focus is on implementation with a significant emphasis on community-led delivery. We are recommending that the committee approve the release of the strategic partnership grant of $552,000 into Active to continue the delivery of these defined priorities.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate, this funding grant is very front-line facing, so it's all about delivery into our communities.
Yep. That's great, thank you. And despite some of the slightly difficult start with Active, it seems to be going well. Any comments? Councillor Wayne?
You just have a quick question. My understanding is that there's a strong partnership with the regional sports trusts. I just wanted to confirm that and to really ask whether, in instances where some parts of the region may need some support, that is happening through Active, and that those regional sports trusts are as important, as significant as they have been in the past.
Yep, sure. So there's a network of community sport delivery partners that sit below Active that align to the regional strategy that Active have put in place. There's a new sort of focus on community-led delivery, so working from the real community area, identifying needs and working with communities to understand how intervention strategies can be put in place in those areas to, more effectively address decreasing physical activity levels we have in our communities.
Okay, Councillor Walker?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So just to clarify, Madam Chair, all the delivery occurs through the regional sports trust.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one other partner.
Yep. I think 90% of the money actually, here actually goes back to on-the-ground delivery, which is critical. Councillor Newman.
Madam Chair, Mr Stewart, I don't think that the same could be said in the south with respect to Counties Manukau Sport. So I'm going to just ask you one question and make a quick comment, because I understand, and it's been reiterated, that the funding does go to the front line here. I think that comment might be a reminder for me. With respect to the relationship between Active and CLM, which is the sort of de facto regional entity in the south, it appears at this point in time, can you advise if there was a contestable tender process before the relationship with CLM was confirmed, and can you elaborate on how that decision was taken?
There was a process of consultation. There was no contestable process in the appointment of CLM as being the new community sport partner in that area. There was extensive amount of community discussion that was had around what communities were looking for. With the appointment of CLM, that discussion is continuing as they host events and speak with their communities. However, no, there was no contestable process.
Chair, I don't like the relationship that we have in the south. It's not a good situation to have, and it continues to be a very sore point, whereby we have two entities that appear to be at war with themselves, and it's a war to the death. And I'm very concerned about the future for Counties Manukau Sport, which has a relationship which dates back a quarter of a century now. The difficulty that I have is that I don't want to see funding denied frontline services. I don't like that. Heavens knows I could debate the modus operandi of Active and the relationship decision making that has taken place with Counties Manukau Sport, and frankly with CLM as well. I think the jury's out for me on that. I'm obliged to support the recommendation, but it is not enthusiastically, and there will be more discussion to be had about what Mr Stewart has said today in response to my question, because the decision to not have that relationship between Active and Counties Manukau Sport, and instead to go into a partnership with CLM, which has a very different motive to CMS, which appeared to be taken despite there being no contestable process, where the value of that partnership to CLM it's unclear to me. The relationship between
Councillor, can I do just need to rein you in a little bit here. I understand your concerns, and I've traversed this many times with both sides of the debate. It's my understanding that some of these issues are being worked through, but the decision that Active have made has been made, and I think we just need, I just caution you a little bit to just temper some of your language, because some of these are your opinion, they're not necessarily fact.
So I'll defer to your wise judgment and experience, Madam Chair, and say that yes, these discussions will continue, and that whilst I will not stand in the way of this recommendation today, this is a sore point for the South and very much a matter for live debate.
Indeed, that's heard. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is just around bullet point 16, because I note that you're developing a funding agreement for clear accountabilities and KPIs for the investment, which I absolutely support, as always. You don't just give money out without actually knowing exactly what it's for. So I wondered, I've moved these recommendations, but I wondered if we should add a B, note that reporting back against key performance indicators will be, and I was going to ask you whether that should be quarterly or 6 monthly and via this committee as the grantor of the money.
Should we quarterly, 6 monthly?
I would suggest that 6 monthly might be the most appropriate time frame to allow us to be able to get some outcomes from this investment.
Oh, you got that? I'll bring that up to you, but who seconded with me? Oh,
So
if you're all
that's
right with that?
fine.
Note that
Completely.
reporting back against key performance indicators will be every 6 months to this committee.
And to be fair to Active, they're very big on keeping records and they're very hot on measurements. Councillor Cooper.
Madam Chair, it's just, I suppose, reflecting on Councillor Newman's comments. Look, the bottom line for me is this is ratepayers' money. The intention of it is to get that money out there to increase participation, and if there's hiccups in different communities around the delivery method, there's no time often for contestable. It's got to keep happening. And sometimes with our family, close family, we don't like to acknowledge if things aren't going right. And we had the same thing happen with Sport Waitakere many years ago in Waitakere, and we had to suck it up and realise that things weren't going well. They basically went away, regrouped while somebody else delivered the stuff, and they came back stronger. And over the years, they are an exemplary organisation. And that can happen to Counties Manukau, but we've got to keep delivering the programs via some sort of mechanism. And if it takes it being another organisation, I've got complete faith in our staff and Active to actually decide that, get on with it. It doesn't mean you cut off other organisations forever, but sometimes we just need to regroup and smarten up a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. And on that positive note, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you for the addition, Councillor Simpson. Very useful. So let's carry on. Same. Thanks, Dave. Place our Sport and Rec strategic plan.
Madam Chair, just really to reiterate, this is one of Council's 10 of significant strategic action plans. This is a really important one in terms of the health and well-being of our community in terms of their physical activity. We have completed a refresh and the status report is attached for you, which demonstrates the outcomes that you've achieved through this investment and partnership through our sport and recreation sector across Auckland. So we'd commend to you firstly receiving the status report and secondly endorsing the implementation of the refreshed action plan. I'm getting used to looking at you through foliage.
You are, through the Kāori. I just really want to acknowledge the staff for this, like the feedback from our sporting bodies, our regional sporting bodies and, you know, individual sports organisation. I think the relationship with wider Sports Auckland has never been better, and that's testament to the incredible work that our staff have done. People realise out there we're in a funding constrained environment and they're working collaboratively, and that's what this piece of work represents. It's fantastic, so thank you. I mean, I'm happy to move that we receive it and we endorse the refreshed plan. If someone would like to second that. Councillor Walker, you'd like
Happy to second and to make a quick comment, Madam Chair.
Yep.
And that is around the need, I'd suggest, for us to take into account the amount of reserve land in the region going forward that's going to be available for active sport. My observation generally is that it is going to diminish proportionally over time, and that will be significant. And similarly, contributions, which are one of our main mechanisms for funding what occurs on recreational land, are also diminishing, as are grants overall across the sector over time. So I just make that observation. And the other thing that it would be useful to have some reporting on is just the progress we're making across various sectors in terms of their progress and integration. I note that there are some issues, for example, around sailing that we need to pick up on. Recently there's been a report on golf, for example, so we've got some tidy up to do over time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Casey.
Just to say thank you for your images of active ageing. It's taken a long time to get here, but there's plenty of them. That's just what we've always wanted. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll put those. Oh, sorry.
Just
Councillor
quickly,
Cooper.
I just want to comment. For me, you know, the Greater Auckland Aquatic Action Plan has delivered some really great results, but our policy of free swimming pool access under 16 does not. And I actually think that it's something we should be looking at. No one ever likes to take away the, you know, the goodies, but the reality is we cannot show that children are learning to swim better. We know that we've got queues outside West Wave by 11 o'clock on a Sunday and Saturday morning, and people are waiting over an hour in that queue and nobody's getting in. And the people who are paying aren't going either. And so for me, I think we'd get much better bang for our bucks to say, okay, we might charge a little bit, but maybe that money goes to funding more of these great swimming lessons. So that's just my comment, but otherwise I think we're doing pretty well. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Thank you.